Good afternoon, traders. This is the stock market recap and the watch list for tomorrow. Before I get started, I just need to go over a couple things. The Obama administration extended the Bush tax cuts, which helps out the really wealthy, which he said he wouldn't, but then he went against his authority once again. He's just a puppet. They pull the strings and they say jump, he says how high. The dollar turns positive after this loss right here, as you can see. And we got above this price level that we need to hold at 80.17. So if we hold that, the dollar could continue to be bullish. And we met support at the 20-day moving average, and today we got to close over the 100-day. Commodities pulled back after gold set a new record high in pre-market, and then silver set a new 30-year high also in pre-market. And crude oil hit a 2-year high before all the commodities pulled back on the CRB index. You could take a look at that. But the biggest story of all, and I'm not sure if you guys saw it, I watched CNBC the whole day today with the volume up, and I didn't hear this one time. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at what I read, and you guys need to be aware of this. JP Morgan shorts silver. Well, we've already known that. That's what's been causing the huge rise in silver. But they suddenly go long on copper. You think one of the largest investment banks in the world is just doing this for no reason? Look how much they bought here. 1 billion pounds of copper on the London Metals Exchange. 1 billion pounds. This purchase represents over 50% of the total amount of copper stored in London and is a direct threat to cornering the local market for this commodity. The interesting part isn't there yet, even though you've seen the details. Here we go, guys. The reason they did this, buying metals and other commodities are limited in risk because their prices will rise in the face of the devaluing dollar. I should just highlight this 100 times, the devaluing dollar. Now they're finally starting to admit it. By midway to 3/4 of the way through next year in 2011, I really think that the dollar index will get down to 65 cents and the commodities will continue to rise. But they're rising because of a weaker dollar, and it's taking more dollars to buy the same things that it took with littler dollars a few years ago. So, I mean, this is terrible, guys. And when you see this, JP Morgan is one of the primary banks tied to the Federal Reserve. You should be cautious because the Federal Reserve is a private entity which owns portions of the government, and they control how much money they loan us money, and they loan governments money and states money, and then we pay them back interest on the money that they're creating out of thin air. So we are their slaves forever unless the people stand up, which I don't know will happen. Maybe in my generation or my kids, but the end game is near. I mean, whoever thought this would be taking place? And the sad thing is, probably only about 10% of the population knows any of this is happening. Like, everyone watching this video knows. So it's our duty to inform everybody else about what's occurring in the global financial markets and in the world. Now, look at the advancers versus decliners, and this is something I watch every day, and I hope you guys do it too. I'm not sure if your software provides it, but I use Thinkorswim. It's a great software. You could put custom strategies in here, custom indicators. It works great. All right, so like I said, we were up this morning, and then we just sold off to pretty much finish unchanged on U.S. equity markets today. Let's take a quick look at the E-minis. You see this move 12.35, and then we sold all the way down to 12.22. Remember that 12.27, 12.28 is a nice level, so we need to get above that for a move higher. I'm still bullish as long as we hold above 12.16. Now that we've gotten the doomsday mayhem out of the way, let me start by going over the first trade I made, and it was in the watch list yesterday, IR Ingersoll Rand. It was a technical breakout over the high that we put in back here in November on the daily time frame. We set our alert above yesterday's high, which was this green line right here. So in pre-market, the alert already went off. So the first thing I'm looking for is to take a long at a good entry price, since I already know it's strong. But I don't just jump in. I wait on my signals. I watch my time in sales. I watch it in pre-market. I see where majority of the interest is on the tape. I actually got long right away as soon as the market opened at 43.49 after printing the third bar, which was about right here. And I didn't ride it all the way up here. I actually sold half my position at 63, and then I sold the other half at 83, but it did go all the way up to 44. So you could have got a good move in that, guys. And we really need to start working together to identify setups like this, or anything that you see interesting, whether it's a moving average breakout, whether it's a news, anything. I want you guys to leave me a message or post a comment, because 10 eyes is better than one. If you guys ever want me to take a look at a stock, just shoot it over and I'll do that. I'm just going to show you this real quick. It doesn't catch my interest, but Vivus did just come out with a new diet drug. It got approved by the panel. That's why it's moving up in the aftermarket. I don't trade stocks like this, but if I did, I'd probably trade an ETF. You already know my reasonings behind that. You're diversified, and there's a greater chance that you won't get hurt. When one of the drugs at a company props up and hires people to sell shares, it's basically like penny stock. You ever see the movie Boiler Room? It's the same concept. The same stuff still takes place today. Looking at CCI right here, and I traded CCI today actually, but tomorrow it's going to be in play. This is one of the plays that we're watching that you need to put on your watch list. See this downtrend right here, which we hit 44.46 high right here in September, beginning of October, and we've just been declining ever since then. Also, we've been in a range holding under the 50-day moving average. I usually don't trade stocks like this, but I know people that do, and they make a pretty healthy living off it. Range-bound trading. If you can identify the range, they usually purchase calls and puts and covered calls and stuff like that, so they're making equity if it does go against them. But they've pretty much managed to figure out a way to bank off this. The reason we're watching it tomorrow is not only because we got above the 50-day moving average, which is the red line right here, but we also broke out of this downtrend. So the 43.65 is the level we put in November, and that's the next one we're gunning for. So our alert needs to be set at 43.38 for tomorrow. Another stock I traded today was LVS. I actually caught this contrarian up move, which is very risky, but if you know what you're doing, you can make decent money. The overall trend was down today. Everything on the daily chart looks bearish. That's the one on the left. You see the PPS indicators telling us to go short. You see a declining 5-day moving average, and you also see a declining 20-day moving average, which we closed below today. The next level we're gunning for is 47.20, and there's a great possibility that could be hit today. And then after that, of course, we're going to gun for the 50-day moving average around the 44.19 level. LVS will be in play tomorrow, so you guys just don't set any levels. You can set the 47.20 level. You should have that as a price level on your charts, but just try to trade this intraday. There's going to be a lot of investors. You see it traded 33 million shares today. If there's funds that are still long it, they're probably going to be dumping it tomorrow. But you can't always lean to one side. I mean, for example, you see MMM. Right here, this stock should have went down. It was below the 200-day moving average. It was on this day right here. I was thinking of a short. The next day we open up, they ram it right above. This stock had plenty of bad news on it to bring it back down to this 81 level. But the market makers pull it above the 200. They gap it up, and the rest of the move was squeezing the shorts. Now today you see some institutional selling take place. Look at the volume on this. I'm bearish on this. Over the next month, I think we could get down to 81.5. Another stock I want to point out is Visa. I want to make you guys aware of these corrupt games the market makers are playing with you. Now you see Visa. What happened, guys? The reason they gapped it up was because there were people interested in the stock. So what happens is traders are interested in running this thing up because we did finish strong yesterday. they're going to try to run it up to the 200-day moving average. Now, most likely, the market makers were holding the opposite side of this position. Therefore, they didn't want them to run it up to the 200. So what do? They go ahead and they gap it up, so the traders can make a limited gain instead of this whole thing being a gain. On the open, people still thought it was compelling because the 200-day moving average and everything, so they ran it up, and then after that they sold it off, and they sold it hard. So the market makers propped it up, and this extra big run right here, the reason it sold off so hard is this whole area right here. This is where the market makers started selling theirs off, right here, because they've already made these gains and they gapped it up and everything, and they limited the gains of the future investors, and then they just crushed the stock, finished at low 76.80, finished down almost 2% today. I don't have a lot of things that look compelling, but watch GMCR tomorrow. It was in play today, some kind of news. They report on the 9th, and maybe investors are speculating that the stock will go higher, so we're going to watch for some follow through tomorrow on that. This Option Express stock, OXPS, has been very sporadic. Look at this thing, just crazy moves for a stock like this. A lot of momentum build up. So if this thing does get weak tomorrow, maybe we could have another down day, and we're going to look to start shorting this thing if it holds below 2046. Next one, take a look at SWC. Stocks gained over 40% over the last 3 months. It's pretty strong. It's coming down to the 20-day moving average. They came out and said that they raised their mining cost to a forecast of 400 from 395. So 4010 is where we want to set our, 2010 is where we want to set our level at. Mark your price level there, being that's the 20-day. Don't buy it right when it hits that level. Just wait to see if they consolidate and push for a higher move. That's all I have for you guys tonight. Good luck trading tomorrow.